So good afternoon, students. Let's proceed with the dispersion part. So you can see on the screen that we had started with dispersion. We understood how dispersion affects the bandwidth of the system and how it will affect the quality of the service. Then we discussed how it is related to the broadening and the maximum bit rate that we can get. We solved numerical based on that. We discussed the types of dispersion: intermodal, which occurs mostly in multimode fibers, and intramodal, which occurs in single mode fibers. Then yesterday we derived the equation for the intermodal dispersion. So I'll skip to that final equation that you have. We've done the derivation in detail. So this is the final equation that we got, the one which is starred. And we can see very clearly that delta T is proportional to the length of the fiber, where delta T is the broadening part. So this broadening will increase as the length of the fiber is going to increase. I also explained to you through this equation that it is the delta T is also dependent on N1, N2 and delta. That is, it is dependent on the refractive index. So once the fiber is made, then these just become constant. So in effect, delta T only depends on the length of the fiber, right? That's why, since this kind of dispersion, intermodal dispersion, occurs in multimode fiber, according to that equation, we cannot increase the length of the fiber. The more we increase the length, the more is going to be the dispersion, right? And based on this, we've solved a problem yesterday. And then we just discussed in brief what this intramodal dispersion is, which occurs mostly in the single mode fibers. It is also known as the chromatic dispersion. I don't know if I've told you the reason for that. The term chromatic basically means wavelength, okay, or in specific different wavelengths, right? So I explained you this concept of spectral width of the source, and you can see that this spectral width, which is which is supposed to the LED, which is supposed to operate at 850 nanometer, right? The dotted line is actually also operating at 830 and 870 nanometer. So what we have here is the source operating at different wavelength or different wavelengths, because of which the the dispersion is going to occur. That's why it is known as the chromatic dispersion also. So in this example which you see, the graph, the spectral width is plus or minus 20 nanometer, that is total 40 nanometer, right? So we'll see in module 3 that if you use LED as the source, the spectral width is somewhere around 36 nanometer. That means the LED is not going to function only at a particular wavelength. It's going to function at different kinds of wavelengths, right? And then we just started discussing the types of the intramodal dispersion. So we have to now look at what are these kinds of intramodal dispersion, right? So before discussing the two types, let me write the types. One is the material dispersion, and the other is waveguide dispersion. Okay. So before going into the details of these dispersions, we need to understand few concepts like group velocity and other things. So let's first quickly discuss that, and then we'll go into the dispersion part, right? So the idea of group velocity, group delay. So this basically comes from the fact that let me write the important points so that it will be there in the recording. So it starts from the fact that every mode is carrying an equal amount of energy through the fiber, right? So this is what it means. So if I have an energy E, total energy ET, then this will be split into as many number of modes are there. So if there are 4 modes, you'll get E1, E2, E3 and E4, and the sum of E1 till E4 is going to be ET, that is the total energy. So each of these is going to be an equal value, right? And we expect that all of this energy in the signal, the light, is going to reach the output at the same time, but that doesn't happen, right? So in this case, this energy which is going inside the fiber E1, E2, E3 is dependent. This energy in each mode is dependent on the source. Why is it dependent on the source? Because the source is the one that is going to emit the light and hence the energy, right? But as we have seen yesterday and just today, that in that graph, that the source is not emitting at a certain wavelength. It is emitting at a at multiple wavelengths, because of which this energy E1, E2, E3, E4 in our example will also be emitted at different wavelengths, and because of which the velocity is also going to change, right? And due to this change in the velocity, each of this mode or each of this energy will reach the output at a different time, and therefore dispersion is going to occur, right? So it is same as the multi-mode dispersion. However, this is just going to happen with a single mode whose energy will be split into different parts, and each of this energy will reach the output at different times, right? So as the signal is going to propagate, as signal propagates in the fiber, the components travel independently, because there is no constant wavelength. So wavelength of source is spread out. That means it is multiple wavelengths are there. So we saw that instead of working only at 850 nanometer, the source will work at plus minus 20 nanometer on each side, right? So because of this the the components, or so let me write signal components undergo a time delay. So they will undergo a time delay, or what is known as group delay. They'll undergo a time delay or what is known as group delay per unit length, and this will be in the direction of propagation. So what we'll get mathematically, the denotation for group delay is tau g, and since it is per unit length, so I'll divide it by L, and this is given as 1 by Vg, where Vg is the group velocity, that is the velocity of all of these energies traveling, right? Because they travel in the group. Now we would want all this energy to travel together, but because of change in velocity they will be traveling independently, but totally it is known as the group velocity, and this is given as 1 by c, where c is the speed of light, d beta, where beta is the propagation constant, divided by d k, where k is 2 pi by lambda, right? So beta is the propagation constant and k is the value 2 pi by lambda. So let me clearly write this. So here L is going to be the distance which is traveled by the pulse or the signal. Beta, as I said, is the propagation constant, and let me write here the k is 2 pi by lambda, right? So if you do that, if we now substitute these equations in the equation above, Vg, if I invert it, is c d beta by dk inverse, right? I have inverted it, right? So this is defined as group velocity, which is nothing but velocity at which the energy in a pulse travels along a fiber, along a fiber. So this group velocity, as you can see, is dependent on beta and k, and since k is 2 pi by lambda, we can say that Vg, the group velocity, depends on the wavelength. This is a very important factor. The group velocity is going to depend on the wavelength, and if I scroll up, we will see that the tau g is related to Vg. That means this group delay tau g is inversely proportional to the group velocity, and since Vg depends on wavelength, the group delay also depends on the wavelength, right? So this wavelength of operation becomes very important because your group delay and your group velocity start depending on this wavelength of operation, right? So because of this, each of these components, the energy which I had shown, E1, E2, E3, E4, they are going to travel at a different time, and hence they will reach the output at different times, and therefore the spreading is going to occur, right? So we'll do more on the spectral width of the fiber, of the source in module 3, where we'll really see why this source is operating at those spread out wavelengths rather than a single wavelength, right? So that is the concept of the group velocity and the uh, group delay. So just a quick recap again, because this is a new concept to us. So let me scroll up. So what we have seen is that the source is going to operate at not at a single wavelength, but some spread out wavelength. Why it is so, we'll see in module 3, but this is what happens, because of which, so every mode is going to carry which carries equal amount of energy, but each of this energy in the one mode is going to is going to act independently, and because of which the velocity is going to be different. And since the wavelength of the source is spread out rather than a single wavelength, all of these components are going to undergo some delay. This is known as the group delay, and we can find the group delay per unit length. That means how much delay in the group of signals occurs in 1 kilometer of fiber, for example, right? So that's why we have written tau g divided by L, and this is related to the group velocity as an inverse, and this is equal to 1 by c d beta by dk, where beta is the propagation constant and k is 2 pi by lambda, right? So that is also specified here. So therefore we can write Vg, the group velocity, as c d beta by dk inverse, and this is the velocity at which energy in a pulse is going to travel, right? So you can visualize, if there are 4 such energies, we would want all these energies to travel with the same velocity and reach the output at the same time. But since the source is operating at different wavelength rather than a single wavelength, the velocity of each of this energy portion is going to be different, and they are going to reach the output at different times, and therefore the spreading occurs there, right? So Vg basically is going to depend on your wavelength. Okay. So based on these factors, now we can try and understand what is material dispersion. Material dispersion. So as the name suggests, this dispersion is going to occur because of the fiber material. So fiber can be made of different materials. You can have silica, you can have glass. So based on this, the material dispersion is going to occur, right? So this kind of dispersion, it leads to pulse broadening. So pulse broadening is a result of this dispersion, right? And this basically occurs due to different group velocities, of various components which are launched into the fiber from an optical source. So the source is going to insert the light into the fiber, but because of the different group velocities, then each of this component, and by component we mean the energy components, is just going to be having different velocity, and they are going to reach the output at different times, right? So another reason why this occurs is because the phase velocity of the signal is non-linear. And this velocity, so this basically means that because the fiber is a non-linear channel, the velocity of these components also becomes non-linear. So we don't know when it is going to decrease, when it is going to increase, right? So a quick derivation of this material dispersion. So we'll start with the first point. So let me make a bullet point. So the first is consider the group delay. Consider the group delay tau g. Consider the group delay tau g. So when we consider this group delay, so I'll write this equation tau g, and this will be 1 by Vg, where Vg is the group velocity and am I audible? There was some connection loss. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, there was some connection loss. Okay. Okay, so let's consider this group delay tau g, and this is given as 1 by Vg, where Vg is the phase velocity. Okay, and this tau g is given as d beta by d omega, where beta is the uh, propagation constant and omega is the angular uh, frequency 2 pi f, and this is given as 1 by c n1 minus lambda dn1 by d lambda. Okay, so I have not derived this equation of tau g, which I am going to be doing in the next lecture, where we'll talk about different types of fibers which decrease the dispersion. This equation is basically known as the effective refractive index equation. Okay. So when I derive it, when we talk about different fibers leading to reduced dispersion, it will make more sense there. Okay. So currently we are only just using this value here. Okay. So the derivation is still to be done here. Okay. So here in this equation, N1 is refractive index of core, and C is the speed of light there. Okay. So the next point, the pulse delay, and let us name this some tau m, due to material dispersion uh, in a fiber of length L is, I want to calculate this tau m, so this will be L by C, because if you remember when we were talking about the group delay, it was actually tau g by L per unit length, right? So similarly, if I want to calculate the pulse delay in a fiber of length L, it will actually be tau m by L equal to 1 by C. So instead of tau m by L, I've cross multiplied that L. So you have L by C and the same effective refractive index, which is N1 minus delta dN1 by d lambda, right? So this equation in the bracket is yet to be derived, which we'll be doing when we discuss types of fibers with reduced dispersion, right? So next point, if RMS spectral width, and let us call this some sigma lambda, and wavelength lambda is applicable for a fiber, then sigma m, that is broadening due to material dispersion, it follows a Taylor's series where we can write this as sigma lambda, which is the spectral width of the system, d, that is the derivative of tau m divided by d lambda, plus sigma lambda, the second derivative, that is d square of tau m divided by d lambda square, plus so on. There's no 2 here. Okay, so this is the Taylor series for the RMS pulse. Taylor's series for RMS width. Okay, that is the broadening. So here we'll approximate and we'll consider only the first term. So considering the first term, you can also consider the other terms. It only just gives you a better result. So if we consider the first term, sigma m is approximately, so I'm now going to use approximately sigma lambda, which is the broadening of the system, d tau m divided by d tau. Let us call this equation 1. Let us call this equation 1, right? So now the pulse spread considering dependence of tau m and lambda, that means this delay is dependent on the wavelength. So finding the first derivative, d tau m by d lambda, right? And if you find that derivative using that equation, you'll get L lambda by C. So I'm using this equation. So we had one equation for tau m. So you have tau m, this equation here. Tau m is L by C, n1 minus lambda dn1 by d lambda. So I'm just finding the derivative of that with respect to lambda. So you have d tau m divided by d lambda. So you'll get L by C as it is. The lambda comes out and you have dn1 by d lambda minus d square n1 by d lambda square minus dn1 by d lambda. And you can simplify this to find minus L lambda by C d square n1 by d lambda square. Let this be equation 2. Now we can use this equation 2 in equation 1 because you have d tau m by d lambda and the LHS is d tau m by d lambda. So you have to multiply that equation 2 with sigma lambda. So we'll get sigma m, right? So using 2 in 1, that is equation 2 in 1, we can get sigma m, which will be approximately sigma lambda L lambda by C, right? And since this is broadening, negative broadening does not make any sense. So I'm going to use the modulus. So you'll have the modulus here, okay? And I'll get the lambda inside. So you'll have lambda d square n1 by d lambda square, and the modulus will close, right? So I'll rewrite this equation in a standard form. So sigma m will be approximately sigma lambda L divided by C lambda. I'll introduce one lambda, therefore I'll multiply one lambda in the numerator. So I'll get lambda square d square n1 by d lambda square, right? So this is the pulse broadening which occurs due to material dispersion, right? So you can see why we introduced the lambda towards the end, because inside the modulus now everything will be the square function. Right? So material dispersion, okay, and we'll call this M. Material dispersion will be 1 by L, because I'm doing per unit length. So 1 by L d tau m by d lambda, and that will be equal to lambda by C inside the bracket d square n1 by d lambda square. I'm just making some changes here and there. Okay. So this will be the equation for material dispersion. Okay. The units are very, very important. The units for this material dispersion will be usually picoseconds, but it can also be nanosecond, but usually it will be picosecond per nanometer per kilometer. You can also write this as picosecond, nanometer inverse, kilometer inverse. The sigma m will be in seconds. So usually you will get in some nanoseconds or milliseconds. Okay. So very important equations. Okay. The only thing that we are not aware of is how this spectral width of the source occurs. Okay, why this is happening, that we'll be seeing in module 3. And then the other thing is the effective refractive index. We have only used the equation, so we need to see how we can actually why this equation occurs. So that derivation we'll be doing when we talk about different fiber types. Okay, those fiber types are very important, because the fiber is not just single mode or multi-mode fiber, which we have discussed. Rather, there are different kinds of other fibers which exist, right? So in practice, those kind of fibers, they are part of single mode and multi-mode fibers only, but they are different types where the dispersion is much lower, right? So we'll have to recollect one of the graphs which we had drawn earlier to understand why we have those kind of that kind of dispersion reducing fibers. Okay, so we are almost done with this with the material dispersion. Only numerical is left, so there's not much time to do numerical. So I'll just tell you what the waveguide dispersion does. This is the other kind of dispersion, the waveguide dispersion. The waveguide dispersion mathematics is complex, so I'll keep it very, very simple. As much we need to understand waveguide dispersion. So as the name suggests, it is going to be waveguide dispersion. So the dispersion which occurs in the waveguide, and here the waveguide is the optical fiber. So basically it results from variation in group velocity with wavelength for a specific mode. So your group velocity, that is Vg, right, it becomes wavelength dependent. We'll see in the derivation for effective refractive index that the refractive index n also becomes wavelength dependent. So the wavelength at which we are operating becomes very, very crucial, right? The other important fact about waveguide dispersion, so any fiber will exhibit waveguide dispersion. The waveguide dispersion when d square beta by d square lambda, uh, d square beta by d lambda square when d square beta by d lambda square is not equal to 0, right? This also we'll see when we derive the effective refractive index, right? So in the single mode fibers, this waveguide dispersion is quite severe, okay, but it is wavelength dependent. You can, there is no much way in which we can reduce the waveguide dispersion, because once you make the waveguide, then we really cannot change anything about the waveguide dispersion. So I'm not going to do the mathematical part, right? But because as I told you, it is a bit complicated. But if you just want to look at the equation for the waveguide dispersion, so tau waveguide. So here the tau is going to be the group delay. If you want to calculate that, then it is given as L by C d beta by dk. So this is the standard equation, and this is L by C, and you have n2 plus n2 delta d. So where d is going to be the factor, the small b is the factor beta by k minus n2 by n1 minus n2, and this is known as this small b is known as the normalized propagation constant. And you can see that that derivative is k into b divided by dk there. Okay. So it's a little bit complicated to do this. It also takes it into what are known as Bessel's functions, so that really is not required to be done for this type of syllabus. Okay, so all we need to know is what the waveguide dispersion is. If you can write the equation, these equations, that is also good. But what is important is how to calculate the total dispersion. And once we calculate the total dispersion, how is it that we can reduce this total dispersion? So once we get that, then we can see which kind of fiber can be used to really reduce the dispersion. Okay, so in so I have kept saying that we want to reduce the total dispersion. So very soon, probably in the next lecture or maybe the lecture after that, we'll see a graph like this, where you have dispersion versus the wavelength lambda, and you will see if this is the zero dispersion. We'll see that the material dispersion, so material dispersion will increase with the wavelength. The waveguide dispersion will be on the constant negative side, right? Therefore, if you add the two dotted lines, that is M and this waveguide, you will get a total dispersion, and you will see that this total dispersion looks something like this, and the wavelength is somewhere, the wavelengths are like this. So you can already see what is happening here. So I'm getting some zero wavelength, zero dispersion. Okay, total zero dispersion. So this solid line here is d total, that is total dispersion. So you can see that this I'm getting some zero dispersion somewhere around 1310 1320 nanometer. Right? This could be 1310 or 1320 nanometer. So I'm getting zero dispersion there. So I'm very interested in this particular wavelength. So this is the zero wavelength, zero dispersion. So I'm very interested in zero dispersion because I want to get the least amount of dispersion, right? However, if I draw the diagram for attenuation, okay, we know that the diagram looks like this. You have a peak somewhere here and then it reduces, right? So here you can see that the lowest attenuation which we'll get is around 1550 nanometer. So one around 1310 or 1320 nanometer, the attenuation is high. Attenuation is high, right? However, the dispersion is low at 1310. The attenuation is low. The attenuation is low at 1550 nanometer, right? Somewhere here, attenuation is low, but the dispersion is very, very high, right? So there is a trade-off. So we get what is known as the trade-off. So the wavelength where we want to operate, that is 1550, is because the attenuation is low, but there the dispersion is high. The wavelength where we do not want to operate, 1310 or 1320 nanometer, their dispersion comes out to be zero, but the attenuation is high. So is there any technique that we can shift the dispersion from 1310 to 1500 nanometers? That is what exactly is done by certain fibers which are known as dispersion shifted fibers. Okay. So we look at those kind of fibers which will shift this dispersion, the graph on the top, from 1310 or 1320 nanometer towards wavelength which are close to 1550 nanometer. So once you do that, you will get low dispersion and you will also get low attenuation. Okay, so those are the kind of fibers we are actually interested in.